35. I'm gonna move my chair a little bit here because the camera is looking this way and I kind of feel really awkward. Like I'm looking like over here, like trying to talk. Let's bring my microphone a little bit closer. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, look at me. I got my studio ready. Yeah. Okay. Hi, I am psyched today. It is a beautiful day here in Plymouth. I did wake up with a fibro flare today. So there's a little bit of a flare sitch happening, but that's okay because I managed to get myself fully combobulated before going live today, which is great. Sorry, so if I lean back, perfect. Okay. I'm going to make sure that we're streaming in all of our places. You know how it is in this world where you never know if social media is actually doing what it's supposed to do or not. So we'll start with going to YouTube. Oh, here, look at me. I'm live on the page. At least I know I'm live on this page. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to move my chair a little bit here because the camera is looking... Oh, wow, my sound is incredible. Oh my God. This sounds really good, actually. That's fab. All right, so that's the first thing. One, I checked that one, and then let's check YouTube to make sure that YouTube is also looking good. Am I streaming live on YouTube? I don't know. We'll find out now. Yes, I am currently live on YouTube as well. Fabulous. Wow, my sound is incredible. Oh my God. This sounds really good. Yep, look at me talking about how amazing my sound is. Great. Okay, so everything is flowing nicely as it should. Fabulous. All right. Hello, and welcome to the Stop Shooting All Over Yourself podcast. I am Vanessa Konecki, your host, and this podcast was created actually over the last several years as I have been building my business and growing and finding success myself, but also helping my clients and my students find a lot of success and watching other people really break out of the mold of traditional business ownership and find a lot of success doing it. And what's really interesting is that most of us are doing things opposite to the way that traditional business ownership would tell us we're supposed to. We're doing the things that other people say, oh, you shouldn't be doing. We're coming at our business from a heart-centered place. We're letting our spirits guide us. We're into the woo. Maybe you're working at night. Maybe you're serving like a really underserved population that people said, yeah, nobody's going to buy this. They're never going to have the money to buy it. Maybe you're working with people that other people said, who wants to work with them? Nobody cares, that kind of thing. Maybe that's where your heart lies. But whatever it is, the people that I work with tend to have businesses that go outside the societal norms. And they're trying to run a business differently, while at the same time receiving messages constantly that say that the way that they're running their business or the way that they think you can run a business is wrong. And as a result, for many of us, we tend to undervalue our products. We undervalue ourselves. We undervalue what we ask about, for when we are talking to clients and customers. We undervalue the value that we offer when we're even pitching ourselves to people. And as a result, we really struggle with actually making the money that we want, not necessarily because we're not getting enough clients, but because we're not charging enough to the clients or the customers that we do have. So we're not able to make a living wage off of the work that we're doing because we're not charging enough. Now, over the last several weeks, we've been breaking down this idea of charging what you're worth and talking about why it is that we struggle so much with charging what we're worth. Hi, Sophia. Good morning. Good morning. Hello, Deb. Hello. Paul is at the doctor's getting his checkup for his new knee. Okay, wonderful. How is he feeling? So good to see you. If there's anybody right now who's watching us on YouTube, check us out there as well. I just realized that I have not shared this anywhere on my personal profile. So let me just grab this link right now. I'm actually going to grab the YouTube link and I'm going to put it on my Facebook just because I want to try something different today. I'm trying to get off of Facebook a little bit more. Oh my God, Eliza's hair looks amazing. All right, so let me just put this up here. All righty. Rocking that. Okay, so that's being posted now. Fabulous. Okay. All right, so we're all here now. Fabulous. Okay. So anyway, so we're all trying to run our businesses our own way. We struggle with charging what we're worth or charging our value. Forget about what we're worth, just value. And as a result, we're not making the money that we want to make. And for many of us, that's for all of us, it's demoralizing. When you're not getting paid what you know that your work is worth, it makes you feel like, one, maybe my perspective is off. Like, it's like, am I wrong? Is everything I do just shit? Right? Like, you ask yourself that question, right? But the other thing is you're constantly having to prove yourself, right? And it's very, again, demoralizing. So one of the things that I really wanted to do with this particular podcast series was go over one, where do these ideas come from? Because for many of us, we really admonish ourselves and make ourselves feel bad about the fact that we even feel these things. And so I wanted to really break that apart to see that like these ideas, these perspectives, these beliefs come from a very specific place. We were programmed into it so that we can understand how to deprogram ourselves, right? But once you recognize, okay, this is how I got to where I'm at, and now you've made the determination that you want to do it differently, we have to figure out what does that path forward look like, right? Now, for a lot of us, we tend to want to dive right in. Like we're like, oh my God, I now have this new realization, so I'm going to make all these changes. I'm going to jump and I'm going to charge more money and I'm going to do this. And we think that it's this switch that we're going to be able to flip and just do the thing. But the truth is, you've spent decades developing this belief system about yourself that is preventing you from charging what you're worth or asking what you deserve, right? Asking for what you deserve. You spent a lot of time putting that in place. So it's not going to be something that just because you listen to a couple of podcasts and made this decision that it's going to sort of like immediately you're going to feel better. You're still going to feel anxious the next time you go and say, double your prices, right? So you were going to charge $100 for something and you say it's $200. You're still going to feel that sense of anxiety. Even knowing all these things that you know, it's still going to be challenging. And the reason that I want to share that with you is that you know that this is a process. You don't have to, for a lot of us, we're going to be like, oh my God, I'm doing it wrong. You're not doing it wrong. The whole point of listening to these podcasts and talking about these ideas is not so that you can flip a switch and change tomorrow. It's so that these ideas will start to become things that you're thinking about, and they'll come to mind whenever you're faced with any of these questions or challenges. And you will now have a different framework from which to approach it. And every time you are faced with any of these challenges, every time you have to practice one of these new ideas, the muscle gets stronger and stronger. It's like every muscle that you've ever had to develop in your life. You know, if you were going to develop your biceps, what do? You've got to work your biceps continuously over time. You're not going to just go watch a video on, how to get your biceps bigger or get defined biceps, do a couple of, curls and suddenly be like, ta-da! That's not how that works. That's not how this works either, right? So I want you to make sure that you're being gentle with yourself as you're going through this process and recognize that you will grow into that space. The real important lesson is really to just keep it in mind as an alternative option to charging less, right? So yes, one option is charging less. Here's the other option. And the more you think about that as an option that's available to you, the more likely you are to spin towards it and to set up systems to help support yourself so that each time you are more likely to be successful doing it. And then 3 or 4 years down the line, you'll be charging 10 times what you're charging today, and you'll be doing it without blinking. Okay. Alrighty. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. He's having a rough time in the healing process. It's going to be long and painful. Dude, just as we said, sometimes the healing of things is long and painful. Okay. So now, we've talked about a lot of different reasons why you may not be charging what you're worth. And today we're going to talk about something that is actually very, very difficult. So I want to make sure that I do it slowly and thoughtfully. So it might take a little bit of time as we're working through these ideas. I'm going to go through the podcast live. And then when it's done, I will come back for questions. I'm sure there will be quite a few because I know that this is something that is near and dear to a lot of you, where you may have fallen in love with your business at some point. When you started your business, there was a passion, there was a desire, there was like, oh my God, those starry eyes. Ah. But like any relationship, sometimes you start to get a feeling that something isn't working right, that something isn't going the way you want it to go. And we're talking beyond the social media, beyond the ads, beyond any of that stuff. We're talking about that core feeling where you're like, something just isn't working. We've all had a relationship like that where you're like, I don't know how to make this relationship work, right? And you get to a point where you have to decide for yourself, is it the relationship? Hi, Cindy. How are you doing? Where is it the relationship with this particular person? Is it the way you have framed this relationship? Or is it time to leave, right? Is it time to leave? And in order for you to really know which one it is for you, we have to sit and kind of look at how you feel about your business. Now, it's important to recognize that, like, when Alex and I first got together, our first couple of years, we fought a lot. Like, we both had a lot of unhealthy ideas about relationships. We brought our own baggage into the relationship. And I mean, we were just constantly fighting. And we often talk now about how we're kind of surprised that we made it through those 2 years. But the sex was really good. So we just, we kept it going. But that's important, right? We had something to keep us going. And then at one point, I remember we had a couple of crucial conversations in our relationship, and each one set like a particular framework that we still use today that together they transform sort of how we interacted together as a couple, and really is why I think we have a very successful relationship now, is because of these conversations that we had earlier on, setting these frameworks out and making sure that we knew what we were expecting out of the relationship. But if you'd asked us in those first 2 years, we would have been like, yeah, we'll just do this as long as we can do it. It's really fun. She's really fun. He's really fun. Whatever, right? And there were probably moments where we were both like, oh my God, this is just a lot of drama, okay? The same thing is true for your business. You may be in a state in your business right now where it feels like it's a lot of drama. It feels like you're not sure if it's going to work out, but you may just need to have some crucial conversations with yourself about your business to get you back on the right track, right? That's really important. Now, I've had relationships in the past where those crucial conversations did not turn out, obviously, to that relationship continuing, that a relationship ended. Regardless of how that relationship ended or began, I now am in my dream relationship, right? So it all ended up here. So I wouldn't call those relationship failures. I would call them experiences that I had that helped me get to where I'm at today. So what we're going to be talking about today is really about the crucial conversations that you have regarding your business so that you can decide for yourself whether the reason you are having trouble charging things. Now, this is why this is so important, okay? I want to set the framework a little bit more than I would usually. Is that if you are not in love with your business, then you're going to have a hard time convincing other people to give you money to do what it is that you do. Okay? Because you don't love what you do, right? If you're trying to pitch somebody for a job, right? And you're like, you need to meet my friend Jessica. My friend Jessica, she's great at paperwork, right? Immediately, I don't believe in Jessica. Are you going to hire Jessica? You're not going to hire Jessica. But if I come to you and be like, give me a sec, I want to get myself into the vibe for like, because this is what I do with Carolyn. Because like, oh my God, dude, listen, Carolyn is literally one of the smartest people I have ever met. It doesn't matter what job you have. I'm telling you right now, it literally doesn't matter what job you have. Put her in it. She will be able to learn whatever it is whatever it is that you need her to learn, she will figure it out. Well, you want to hire Carolyn. It doesn't matter what job you have right now. You're just like, Manessa says that she's that good and I trust Manessa. I'm going to hire her. I don't care what the job is. I know that Carolyn can figure it out, right? You can feel my enthusiasm in one versus the other. One is genuine enthusiasm and the other is me just saying, well, okay, Jessica wants a job and I kind of don't want her to not get it, right? If you don't feel that level of enthusiasm for your business, you're not going to feel that level of enthusiasm when you're pitching your business to other people, when you're pitching your product, when you're pitching your service, when you're pitching yourself, right? So now that inauthenticity is going to shine through no matter what it is that you're trying to sell. And so you could have the best system in place. You could have the best funnel in place. You could be saying all the right words. But if when you're talking to people, you are not genuinely enthusiastic about what it is that you're doing, and I don't mean you're having a bad day, because even people who are having a bad day, they still have enthusiasm for the things that they're doing. It comes through. These are all very subconscious cues that human beings are capable of picking up. So you don't have to worry that, oh my God, if I'm having a bad day, then I'm going to basically be telling somebody that I hate my business. That's not how it works. It comes from the core. Okay. So if from the core, you generally love your business and today you're having a bad day, people can pick up on that. If you genuinely hate your business or genuinely are unhappy in your business or do not feel like it is giving you what you desire and you feel like it's a chore, then that will also come out. Okay, so what we're talking about today is we are no longer sending out live texts. I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. We're moving into a different platform, Paula, where you're going to get emails instead. This weekend, I'm going to finish that up. So actually, let me go ahead and talk about that right now. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to talk about it at the end because the podcast is going to help explain everything about what it is that I'm going to say at the end. So it will sort all that out. Okay, so that's sort of what we're going to be talking about right now. Right. If you have any questions, put them in here. It is super important because that's really what's going to help us kind of work through some of these things. And remember, as you're going through the whole thing, there's plenty of options at the end of the conversation, but the conversations are going to be hard. Okay. If there's anything that I've learned in the last 10 years with Alex, is that we have a lot of really short, difficult conversations, but we never fight. We almost never fight. The only time we've ever fought is when I'm drunk, and that's why I don't drink. we usually will just have difficult conversations that then lead to a greater strengthening of our relationship. So this is a challenging conversation, but it will lead to a greater strength in the relationship that you have with your business. Okay, so let's talk about this stuff. This is some seriously fun stuff. Okay, what's great about this is that at the end of this is the last hardest hurdle to overcome when it comes to charging your worth. Once you've overcome this hurdle, you're pretty much going to be good with everything. And at that point, you'll have all the tools that you need to pretty much start to build your path to saying whatever number you want to say when people ask you what something costs. Okay. All right. Hello, and welcome to the Stop Shooting All Over Yourself podcast. My name is Vanessa Konecki, and today I do not have an intro for myself because today's podcast is incredibly personal to me, and I'm going to be talking about what to do when you are running a business that doesn't feel quite right in your soul, when something that you felt a great deal of passion for, a great deal of love for, is not quite clicking for you the way it used to, and how to navigate that situation so you can get back on track to falling in love with your business, or you can decide that you want to take it into a different direction, or you may decide you want to do something else altogether. But this podcast is about really having that important conversation with yourself, the crucial conversations about what it is that you as a human being want before you as the business owner want. Okay. So I want to start by talking about what happens to us when what happens when you start running a business. So like, you and I are talking, you've started a business, you're 2 or 3 years into it, we're, at a conference event talking. What kind of mindset do we bring into business ownership at that time, right? One of the things that's super interesting, when we talk amongst ourselves about other business owners, is that we really consider there to be only 2 options when someone starts a business. So if you start a business, now you're a business owner, either you're going to succeed or you're going to fail. So if someone says, how's your business going? They're expecting you to tell them how well it's doing or how poorly it's doing, right? When someone leaves running a business, they say, oh, she closed her business, right? It's rare for people to give someone the freedom to say they chose to do something else. This is actually quite prevalent in direct sales too, where once you sign on to direct sales, if you leave direct sales, you're considered to have failed in your business. So this is a real common perspective. And so a lot of business owners actually will take this in with them, because when they're in direct sales, this is the philosophy of either you're successful and you make a ton of money, and if you leave, you fail, right? And one of the reasons for that, because that makes sure that people will stay in as long as possible. And again, this is not a judgment. This is just sort of how the business is run. So that they can continue to make money as a corporation, which is, again, how all corporations are set up. But the important thing to keep in mind is the mentality that we get as a result of that, right? This isn't about judging how that mentality happens. It's just about saying that this is something that comes to mind for us, is that we don't feel like we have any other options besides succeeding or failing. So for us as business owners, once you move from the day 9 to 5 job, an hourly wage type thing, into a space where you are running your own business, it's almost like you have entered into a new world where now you really only have 2 options, right? So immediately you are kind of stuck on a rail. But it's okay when you first start, because you're really excited about your business, and you don't expect to fail, right? So it's like, and again, when you only have the succeed or fail options, there is only one option. There's only succeed, right? So now I'm just going to succeed, and I'm going to dive into this and be super into it, right? So we talk a lot about this in episode 31 of the podcast, where either you succeed or you fail, which doesn't give you the option to make any other choices in your life at all. So like if you just decide that you're like, I don't like, underwater basket weaving anymore, and I want to become a nurse, right? Does that mean that you failed? How do we move from a perspective where you even allow yourself the permission to believe that you might want to be a nurse? Because before you can even think that, you have to first decide that you don't want to run a business. But wait, if you don't run a business, then you failed. So you sometimes can't even get to the point where you decide you want to be a nurse, because you can't get past that point where you don't have any other options beside to make that decision, right? So let's talk about how you get into the business in the first place, right? When you first get into a business, you have a dream, a vision of something you want to do, achieve. Maybe there's an impact that you want to have, and you embark on it. So you're super excited. I'm going to change the world. The second way is you don't really have a dream. You're at home, you want to do something, you need, and you're looking for something to do, and a direct sales opportunity comes your way, and you're like, oh, this sounds like a really fun way to make money, make community, that kind of thing, right? It feeds your fire, so you dive into it. Other ways are you might lose your job and you feel like there is, now it's necessary. You don't have a choice. And so necessity means that you have to start a business. But each of these is connected to an open-ended dream, right? So now you will either hit that goal, whatever that dream is. Are you going to have that impact? You're going to make that money, or you're going to make those sales goals, whatever it is, right? Are you going to do those things? Because now at this point, it's not an esoteric idea of success. Now you're starting to put things down and you're saying, I've got to make money. I've got to make these sales goals. I've got to get this cruise. Whatever it is that you're now deciding that this is going to be the metric for your success becomes how you're going to define yourself now that you're in this business. So now we're going to more like day-to-day activities. Now, in some of these spaces, it's if you are not going to be successful in business, right, or in direct sales, in both of those spaces, then you fail and go back to corporate. Okay, there really is a language in business that, sometimes it's talked about overtly in some circles, and in other circles it's very subtle, and in some circles it doesn't exist at all, which is really nice. But it's important to recognize that as a community of business owners, there is an othering of people who do jobs. And not necessarily in us judging them, like I'm looking at you, you're doing a job, haha, you suck. But more of a, that's for them, not for me. And if I choose to do that, it's because I failed at being a business owner, okay? And so we start to now, because this is the perspective that we have, right? But being a business owner is really hard, okay? So we've got this idea. And as wonderful as business ownership is, it's still very challenging, right? And so what ends up happening is that what we end up doing is we end up highlighting a lot of the things that we love in our business, which is great and exactly what we should be doing, but putting that other stuff to the side so that it's no longer an option that's available, okay? So now we are closing doors for ourselves in terms of what our options and our opportunities are in any given space in our lives. Now, one of the key things that I talk about in stage 5 of the roadmap to success is that the key to success and growth is actually keeping all doors open and seeing everything as an opportunity all the time. So just because you have chosen one thing doesn't mean that another thing is now no longer an opportunity for you. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there's an opportunity for a job. Being involved in corporate events can open up more opportunities for customers, clients, things like that. There are many, many different ways for doors to actually provide opportunity. And the problem is that you don't always know what those opportunities are going to be at the time. So by closing ourselves off from all of these other spaces and defining ourselves exclusively as business owners and our skill sets being only here, we rob ourselves of all of the opportunities that are available to us in other spheres of the world. Now, the key here is that it's not bad or good. It's just making sure that we're keeping our eyes open for the opportunities that are available to us, because if we don't, we will start to create an environment in which we feel trapped by the world that we have created, okay? Now we realize that we're stuck in this space, right? So when that is our perspective, we've shut these doors, this is our business, that is really the only direction you can go in. You've now closed everything. This is the rail that I'm on, right? So now I'm working with a number of people right now who are finding themselves in spaces in their business where they're not happy. They're making the money that they wanted to make. So they've achieved that goal, that they're making the money that they want to make, but they're not living the lives that they want to live. And because they have found that over the years, their business has become a little clunky with all of the things that they're doing in their business, right? So one of the biggest reasons why people find that they don't like their business, why they fall out of love with their business, right? This is one of the things to look at is, what are you really doing in your business? Okay, what are you really doing in your business, right? I had one of my clients write out a list of everything that she does in her business. What are all the things that you do in your business, right? And I have another client that actually, she took it another step further, and she broke it down into like daily, weekly, and monthly things that she does for her business. So you wrote all these things down, and then went through and kind of highlighted the things that she loved. She highlighted the things like, so like green marks for things that she loves and yellow marks for things that she, kind of meh, and then red marks for things that she hates, right? And then we looked at that list. And what was really, really interesting about that list is that everything she hates is related to marketing and promoting and prospecting and that kind of thing, because that's not her business. Her business isn't being a marketer. right? So but she just doesn't like doing any of the social media, any of those. She doesn't like dealing with any of those the parts of your business that are not the reason you came into your business in the first place. Because nobody gets into, if you're a crafter, you don't get into your crafting business to become an expert on social media so that you can promote your crafting wares. You become a crafter so you can craft your things and sell them. But at some point, you ended up turning around and realizing that all of the activities that you're doing are related to marketing your product. You don't have any time to actually do the crafting anymore. And you start to resent your business as a result. Everything that she loves in her business is related to creative and strategy and actually doing the work that she started her business for in the first place, which is what a lot of us discover after a while, right? Now, so she's discovered the things that she likes and discovered the things that she doesn't like and what categories those fall into. But here's the kicker, okay? The amount of time she spends on doing the stuff she loves is almost none, because by the time she gets done doing the things that she has to do simply to just get her name out there, she's exhausted, right? And right? And now for her, there's some interesting questions. Well, okay, how many hours are you working? What are some of the things that you're doing, right? One of the key areas for her is she forgets that she wants this to be part-time, right? But somehow keeps ending up like forgetting that she wants this to be part-time, and her perspective automatically goes into that full-time mindset because she's surrounded by people who do this full-time. So without even realizing it, she gets caught up on that train. And then when she pauses and is like, wait a minute, hold on, I only want to be doing this part-time. Why am I working this like it's full-time? She realized that she didn't need to be doing all of those things that she was doing in the first place. She can pull back a little bit more, right? So that's the question you really want to ask yourself is, what is your actual goal? We're going to come to that a little bit later, but first you need to know what you're doing in your business. What do you like? What do you not like? And really try to figure out what buckets those fall into, okay? Now, you also have to know what things you like to do in your business, right? So like, what are the things that I like? Now, let's say you put all these things down and you hate doing everything in your business. Well, that's going to tell you a lot about how you feel about your business anyway. But I bet you're going to find something very similar. So one of the key things to work on in that space is identifying what things you don't need. What kinds of things can you do passively? So for example, the roadmap to success, stage 5, that's actually why I built it the way I did. It's because more and more my clients don't want to be doing this marketing thing. They don't want to be spending all their time out on social media, engaging in spaces and doing, building these gigantic businesses. They really want to be growing smaller, more robust, more stable businesses that have a consistent income. They're trying to build something sustainable and long-term. They're not trying to be flailing out there getting all the things. And so they're getting more, my clients are starting to focus more on refinement and really eliminating some of those things that they don't want to be doing. And that's where stage 5 comes in, because stage 5 is really all about getting rid of the social media platforms that you don't want to use. It's about getting rid of the activities that you don't want. What things can you automate and what things can you set in place so that when you're doing the things that you actually want to be doing, you know that this other stuff is kind of working on the back end for you. But that requires intention. It's not something that's going to happen accidentally. So that is one thing to keep in mind if you find that you're not happy in your business. The other thing I would recommend is going to manessa.com/guide and downloading the Hustle Proof Your Life guide. That's going to be super, super helpful towards eliminating busy work. That'll also create some breathing room in your day, because again, one of the biggest reasons why I find that people fall out of love in their business is because they're just doing too many things. And for the most part, that can be easily resolved by simply getting rid of a whole bunch of things that you're doing. And a lot of those things are busy work that you don't need to be doing anyway. So this is a really, really great way for you to just create some natural breathing room and to create some more love in your business. Okay. So the other thing, and this one's going to be more personal to me, is, have you changed? Okay. Or have you actually, it's a little bit, have you changed? Right. When I started my marketing plan, so some people are going to find that, so you start your business, you do your thing. Let's say you started your business 3 or 4 years ago, right? You have been running your business for the last 3 or 4 years with the same goals, the same, as if the trajectory. You've been on the same trajectory with laser-like focus, because that's what you need to be a business owner, is laser-like focus. But at the same time, you yourself as a human being are adapting and changing to the world around you. most importantly, you're adapting and changing to the fact that we just had a 2-year-long pandemic. We're all dealing with significant amounts of trauma. Some of us have trauma from other parts of our life. And if you are in my audience, then you just come from a place where you have trauma for the most part, or you know people who do, or you are chronically ill, but you bring a giant framework into your business, right? And over the last few years, COVID especially would have a huge impact on you if you're one of those populations as well, right? So for many of us, myself included, we started our businesses, say, in the let's look at like 2018, 19, that kind of pre-pandemic phase for many of us is really what we're looking for. I started mine in 2016 was my first one. So 2016 is when I started foray into small business ownership. But we've been on this trajectory of this is the direction that I'm going in. And we really don't ever stop to reflect, to think about how we have changed as people and how that might be how that may or may not impact how we feel about our business. When I started my marketing plan at the beginning of this year, I took for granted that I wanted my business to scale up. I was trying to get huger, I just took for granted that this was what I was going, because that's the trajectory that I had been on for the last year and a half, right? That's what I sort of just ended up on, that treadmill, and I was like, or that roller coaster, and I was just on it, and that's what I was doing. I wrote out a whole business plan, and it had like this whole big plan of things. I hired a whole team. I started bringing in, but I was excited about the idea, but I wasn't filled with passion about what it was that I was, like, this thing that I was building. I wasn't feeling passionate about this thing I was building. It wasn't fitting the way I wanted it to fit. And I didn't know why, right? And I didn't know how to fix it. So I just kept going, all right, I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other, because that's what it is. You've got your laser-like focus, and you just one foot in front of the other, and you'll figure it out as you go, right? Now, between when I wrote this in January and now, so March of 2022, I literally went through the second most traumatic and impactful experience of my entire life, okay? The biggest, I can't even think of anything other than my mother's death, right? And my own birth, I guess. I literally lost almost everything that I had in my past, my childhood, my foundations, everything was destroyed, okay? I worked with a really strong team of mental health therapists, workers, social workers. It was really great. I had a great team of mental health professionals to pick, and my friends and community and so on, to really pick myself back up. And it's been really, really, I feel very supported, and like the years of work that I have done to build a strong emotional framework was very much worth it, because I think I could not have recovered this the way I have without it, right? And then I just kept going on like nothing had changed. I go through this huge transformative experience in the span of a month, and then I just keep going as if nothing changed, right? And I was like, this still doesn't feel right. Okay, so now I sit down and I rewrite my business plan again. Okay, rewrite my business plan. And again, I'm just writing it as if I'm going to run this big, gigantic business and scaling and a team and everything. And all the while, I'm feeling this giant pull in my stomach that I kept telling my therapist and everybody about, that felt like I felt like this tension, and I couldn't, it's like, when you try to, like, at night before bed, when you try to, loosen up your muscles and, just before you fall asleep, just like turn off your feet, turn off, that kind of thing. I can turn everything off, but there's always this tension pull it's like really tense. It's like there's muscles in there, but it's not muscle. It's like an energetic thing. And I realized that there's a pressure that I was putting on myself. There was an internal pressure of some kind that I didn't even know existed, right? And that was what was wrong. It wasn't my business plan that was a problem. It wasn't the team that was a problem. It wasn't anything that was a problem. The problem was coming from inside. This impetus, this something inside wasn't working the way I wanted it to work. So I really had to think about, okay, where is that coming from? I had changed as a person, okay? So if I change as a person, it's at that point, it becomes, okay, what do I do to have my business reflect this change that is within me, okay? If you have changed for any reason over the last few years, which I imagine that you have, and I imagine you've probably changed more significantly than you know, you may not have had that conversation with yourself or with the spirit of your business, as Simone Grace calls it, which I love, the spirit of your business, to say, okay, now that I've changed in this way, how does our relationship change? Like, no doubt you've had these conversations with other people in your life as you've changed over the years, where, if somebody, where you're like, I don't like I don't like the way we engage when we fight, or I would like it if when we went out we did this. Like whatever things it is that you change as a person and your likes, dislikes, or desires change, you at some point have acknowledged it even within yourself, even if you don't talk about it with other people. Like, oh, I do like sushi now. But if you've never acknowledged it and the impact that it's going to have on your life, then you don't know what steps to take to accommodate for that in your business. And so you're going to feel out of alignment. Okay. So it's really important to reflect upon how you have changed, what your wants and desires are. And I will tell you, it's really hard. So all of this came out because I was working with my intimacy coach, Miss L, and she asked me, I think in like, she was one of the people that, I was working with over the years, and she asked me, what do you want? I was like, I got mad. I didn't know what I wanted. Like I got mad a couple of times, and you don't get frustrated. You don't get mad at Miss L. That's all I'm saying. She's amazing. I freaking love her. If you're looking for an intimacy coach, I cannot recommend her enough. My eyes twitching. I had to really think about what it is that I wanted, and that took me probably a couple of months to sort of really work through, but it's worth doing. It is worth doing because once you figure out how you have changed and how your relationship with your business has changed as well, you will find that you are in a much stronger position to serve others, make more money, because you feel like you have a strong foundation. Because again, if you have changed, you are not going to feel confident promoting your products because you don't believe in them, not because there's something wrong with your product, but because you haven't figured out what that relationship looks like right now, right? And so if you guys have no clarity amongst yourselves, your product and you, then how are you going to have clarity when you're trying to promote yourself to someone else? And therefore you will not feel comfortable charging higher prices because you are not sure what the value is that you give. So you've got to figure out where you fit into all of this. Okay. But there are other situations. Okay. So there's the situation where the feeling's gone and it's going to come back, but there is also a situation where you really just don't want to be doing the thing. Okay. So this is super important because, this happened to me when I was selling clothes. Okay. So I was selling clothes. I had enjoyed doing clothes for a long time. It was the best time ever. But at a certain point, I was just like, I really hate doing this. I don't like doing this. I don't want to be up on fashion. I don't care about the trends. I don't care about any of this. And when you stop caring about getting better at your craft, you probably don't like your product anymore, or you probably don't like what it is that you're doing, or there's something about it that you don't like. Now we really have to be looking at is it time for a break? We were on a break. Is it time for a breakup? What is that situation? So that's something really important is we are often very scared to look at that. And it makes sense. I mean, think about it. Like, it's like any other relationship. Okay. It's like any other relationship where it's like, you know what? Sometimes it just doesn't work out, but it's hard when you realize the relationship isn't working out. It takes a really long time sometimes to even recognize that it's not working. Like I've been in relationships, we've all stayed in relationships too long because it took us too long to realize that it wasn't working. Right now, if that's the case, so if you find yourself that you realize that you hate what it is that you're doing, a lot of the reasons why we feel that and then we don't want to look at it is because we think, okay, if I decide I don't like what it is that I'm doing, then that means that I have to do something else, and that means that I have to figure out what else I want to do, and that can be a terrifying prospect. So we just put off acknowledging the elephant in the room until we're ready to take that next step. I know that I do that frequently. Like my subconscious will not let me see something until I am actually ready. So my family and people who know me have been seeing this change happen in me over the last few months. My husband, of course, who knows me better than anybody, has been seeing it happen over the last 6 to 8 months. But what's really interesting is that I was in complete denial because my subconscious was not ready for me to see it yet because I did not know how to I did not have any tools to navigate it. But once I did have the tools to navigate it, the switch flipped and I was there to go. Okay. So that's why continuing to put one foot in front of the other is really important, because as long as you're standing still, you're not going to have any change in any direction. There's literally it's complete stagnancy. So the key is that even if you aren't sure, take little steps, right? Take little steps in any direction. Doesn't really matter. It's really just about getting that momentum going. Heck, the step could be going outside and taking a walk and being alone with your thoughts. Like that is a step, because that gives you an opportunity to simply sit in silence or walk in silence or with your music, right? Now, here's the thing that can happen if you do not like your product, right? So if you continue to sell your product long after you do not believe in it or don't like it, you will start to resent your product. Your audience will be able to tell, and then they are definitely not going to buy from you because they can tell that you don't like what it is. Okay. This is important for direct sellers, especially. I just want to like touch base on this is because a lot of times people can get disillusioned with the product or either the product or the direct sales company, one or the other. So like you love the product, but hate the company, or you hate the company, love the product, right? Or you hate the product, love the company. So if you love the product, but hate the company, okay, like then what I want to recommend to you is divorce yourself from the company emotionally and really focus on thinking of them exclusively as your wholesaler, because you don't have to have an emotional relationship with your direct sales company unless you want to. A lot of times we feel like they're part and parcel, but they really aren't. You can at any time opt out of any of the social activities. You can focus on it as a product and not have it be the central part of your entire life, of your entire social life. So that's definitely something that you can do if it's you don't like the company, but you like the product. If you don't like the product and you like the company, then I'm going to tell you, you are probably going to, what I'd recommend is I wouldn't expect to make money off of it. Then I would be really conscious about what your goals are. We're going to talk about that in a second, but you may need to reframe your goals at that point, because if you like the company and you want to stay, even though you don't like the product, then now your goal is to create community and build relationships with people. It's really not about the product, and that's great. Then stay with the company and build your relationships. But if you truly want to make money doing this, then I would not recommend selling the product, because you won't be able to, you'll constantly feel like a failure. Okay. The one thing to keep in mind in any case is no matter what it is that you decide to do, whether you decide to stay with your business, leave your business, go to another business, whatever it is, go back to corporate, every skill set that you have developed as a business owner has an enormous amount of value and has increased your marketability tenfold. So every step is a foundation step to your next level. It doesn't matter what your next level is. It is still another foundation step. So that's something really, really important to keep in mind, because I think a lot of us feel like we're afraid to do anything else because we feel like it's a waste, or what'll I do with all this? Or we don't even know how to put this kind of stuff in a resume. I actually have resume ready content for any business owner in the squad. You can join the squad by going to manessa.com/squad. I actually have the whole resume stuff out there. So if you're like, oh, I want to go back into corporate, but I don't know what to put on my resume, you can do that. We actually had one of the members the other day, her resume looks amazing. Syra is in the squad as well. She is a resume expert. She reviews people's resumes and gives you amazing, amazing feedback. I usually will work with people. Oh my goodness. I forgot this is podcasting. I thought it was live again. Okay. We're going to come back. All right. Edit that out however you can. Okay. All right. We're going to start with this. So one thing I just want to keep, cut before the edit, the transferable skills. We'll cut there, and then I'll put that in later. Okay. We talked, I want to come to the, are you trying to meet too many goals? Because we talked about if you were going to stay in the company because you don't like the product, but you like the people. Okay. That's where you might want to take a look at what are your goals for your business. Okay. This is an area that is actually very, very murky. I think you'll be surprised at how murky it is. Okay. One of the things that I realized over the last, couple of months is that I had gotten really caught up in the momentum of growth. My business was doing well. I was able to play around, hire a lot of people, set up websites, and it was really fun. I had a great time, built an incredibly amazing team that works together like clockwork. Literally, like the perfect business was created. Fabulous. I had the best time ever, right? But when I started my business, my goal was that I wanted to make enough money to pay my bills, put money away for retirement, and have an impact on people. And I wanted to be able to sketch when I want, draw, just do my thing, right? I wanted low but steady impact, slow but steady impact, sorry. And I wanted to just be me. That's what I wanted. It's still what I want. But that's not what I have right now. How weird is that? Right? That happens more often than you would think. We get caught up in the momentum of business ownership and can often lose sight of what our actual goals are. In fact, if I was to say what is the biggest danger in business ownership, it is getting caught up in the momentum and forgetting what it is that you as a business owner personally are trying to accomplish, right? Without any outside intervention telling you that these are what your goals need to be, okay? When I look at how my business is structured right now, it is not structured in alignment with my actual goals. Not like my actual goals are to be a one-woman show who does things interpersonally, hangs, it's small. That's what I wanted, right? But as I started to grow, I was like, oh, I want my team to be a well-oiled machine, which I did that. It was great. I wanted to have a beautiful website. I did that. It's fabulous. I wanted to have a community that ran itself. I did that. It's great, right? All of these things are doing it, but wait, hold on. Do I want to do these things? And are all of these goals compatible, right? So my first stated goal, my core Manessa as a human being goal, is I want to make enough money to pay my household obligations, maintain living here, because I found my forever home, right? So I want to maintain living here, have an impact, and have tons of free time to do whatever I want, right? That is not congruent with having a big team, because if you have a really big team with a lot of software and a lot of things, then automatically now you need to make more money than that, right? So now this second goal is antithetical to the first goal. And if I'm trying to meet both of them, something is going to hurt. I'm going to feel a sense of tension. And that was the tension that I was feeling in the pole in my center, was the tension of the two goals not really being in alignment, because they both require different amounts of money and different amounts of effort and different amounts of time. Either one of those goals is bad. It's just, which one do I actually want? That's the important thing, right? Because one of the things that happens as business owners develop is you start to have a lot of skills and a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that you can do. So you can do a lot of things. And prevailing wisdom would say that because you can do a lot of things, you should do a lot of things. And if you don't do a lot of things, then you're failing. And especially as a business owner, it's, if you can do a thing, then you should figure out how to make money out of it. It's everywhere. And we've all become indoctrinated to that. Okay. Now, when one realizes that this is what my goal is, okay, let's go back to that earlier conversation we had where we were talking about there is only the option to succeed or fail. Okay. So now if I'm already scaling up and growing and I have this big team and everything, and I have the mindset that says, okay, I can only succeed or fail, that means that if I now say, okay, I'm going to scale down and do a Patreon and do something smaller and, not have a team, then I've failed. I've only given myself that option. I don't have any other option. So now I have to keep going on a trajectory that doesn't even make me happy. This is the mindset that many, many business owners find themselves in. And the reason why I wanted to share my journey with you is because, especially as I'm going through it, is because this is a journey that a lot of as I've been sharing it with my peers, with my clients, they have been responding with, oh my God, you are in my head. I have so many options available to me. I don't know which one I should take. I'm afraid of making the wrong choice. I'm afraid of leaving my business. What will people think? There's a lot of stuff that is going into these conversations with themselves, with their families, as they're navigating these new spaces. They're also finding, for many of you, you've been in business now for about 5 years. That's a really good amount of time. And you may be itching to do something else, because if you're like me, you have ADHD and you have a lot of things that you're interested in and you want to do a lot of things. And having to pigeonhole yourself into one space is not a problem unless you have to spend all of your time marketing yourself, right? Which creates that earlier problem. So that's why addressing some of these things is important, because over time, if you pile these things on top of each other, it can start to seem like an insurmountable problem where you can't figure out how to fall back in love with your business again without realizing that there's several different little things that you can look at to resolve some of those issues. Okay. So let's talk about what we can do now, as you leave with this, what some of the things are that you can do. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about failure as a step in a direction, okay? Failure is not the end. Everybody's failed at something. In fact, you've got to fail to succeed. There is no other way. Failure is not even a bad word. Get comfortable with failing. That is one of the most wonderful pieces of advice someone ever gave me, and I've gotten very comfortable with failing. And as a result, I've also gotten very comfortable with succeeding. Both of those things go hand in hand. So get comfortable trying new things with the acceptance that you might fail. You're not going to figure out what's going to work for you in your business unless you experiment. The other thing that I want to recommend that you do is make your own list of things that you're doing in your business and highlight things, just like we talked about earlier. So you can see what are some of the categories that your business activities fall into that you like, that you don't like. What are some things that you can eliminate? What is business busy work? Download the Hustle Proof Your Life guide at manessa.com/guide and get rid of some of the busy work in your business so you have more breathing room to think about these things. Okay. Third is be true to you. Okay. You've got to be very, very conscious of what it is that you want, and that is going to be challenging because it's unlikely that you've spent a lot of time thinking about what you want. That's a whole conversation for another day. But if you are not sure how to access this, the best thing that I can advise you to do is find a therapist. Follow some therapists on TikTok or Instagram. There are some that are going to be in the show notes for this episode. You can journal, right? Journaling is really, really great. Just sign up for some journaling prompts. That's actually an amazing thing if therapy isn't on the table for you right now. But do something that allows you to be introspective and reflect upon what you really want, without the interference of outside noises or influence. Okay. Now, the last thing that I want to leave you with is Okay. The last step on this one is to stop personalizing. Okay. This one is really critical. This idea that we have, that we talked about today about failure and success and so on, we are as complicit in its perpetuation as everyone else. Okay. It starts with us. Making the change in the world starts with us in this. Okay. The first thing is to recognize that someone else's decision to do something different from what you are doing is not a judgment on your choice to do that thing. For one person, it may be they choose to drop their entire business to go back to corporate 100% and get a 9-to-5 for W-2. Someone may decide, I'm not going to be a coach anymore. I'm going into direct sales. I just want to do that and build community and relationships and a team. Someone else might say, forget direct sales. I'm going to go start my own business and sell my own products. Okay. Someone else might say, I'm quitting corporate and I'm going to do a business for myself or start a nonprofit or whatever. None of these things are a judgment on you or your choices. When someone says, I realized X for myself, it is not easy for us to not hear, I'm judging you for not making the same choice that I am, or that I somehow have evolved or learned something that you will one day learn. It's really hard for us to not do that because human beings in general tend to be hierarchical in nature. And so we feel like there's this thing that's happening, but it's not always happening. Okay. So this is really, really important to recognize that nobody is saying that. What they're saying is that I'm sharing with you that I have come to this realization for myself. I've gotten to know myself better. Right. And so I know that I want to do this. Now, we are all very self-centered creatures, so it's really unlikely that they're judging you for making whatever choice you're making. However, if you feel judged in that moment, what I want you to do is, one, recognize that if someone is deciding to do something different from you, then that's great because they've learned something about themselves. Two is, if it does actually bother you, then put it away for the moment and reflect on it and journal about it later, because it may be triggering you because you have some unresolved feelings about it. Okay. Now, third, if it doesn't bother you, don't go into anxiety mode where you think, should this be bothering me? Oh my God, do they know something I don't? Because sometimes if you have anxiety like I do, you're absolutely going to do that. Okay. The key to running a business is recognizing that it's a choice for freedom. Okay. This is the choice for freedom. That it doesn't mean that you're choosing to shackle yourself to another set of ideologies. Corporate world is one set of ideologies, and business world can have its own set of ideologies. Leaving the corporate world doesn't mean you're just going to shackle yourself to another set of them. Okay. That is really important to recognize, that a lot of us do that. We just walk right into another trap. It means that you get to decide what freedom looks like for you. And it can look like anything that you want it to look like. The challenging part is really figuring out how to make sure that all of your pieces are fitting together, right? That your day-to-day life is looking like the way you want it to, that your financial goals, both short-term and long-term, are the way you want it to, right? That the impact that you're having is what you want it to be. Any one of those things could be out of alignment, and that in and of itself is going to make you feel uncomfortable about what you're doing in your business. Are you living the overall life that you want to be living, and what kinds of things do you want to be doing on a day-to-day basis and in your life? Now, for me, when I realized that my scaling had gotten out of control from what I actually wanted, the next steps became really straightforward. Scale down, switch to Patreon and Discord, and the path to becoming smaller and more intimate, right? It's just, that's the path. Now I know. When I realized that I wasn't being true to my word of the year, which was surrender, And I just surrendered the timeline because I realized the reason why I was doing all this acceleration with money and whatnot is because I felt this sense of urgency to do everything quickly because I was going to run out of time. I wasn't surrendering to the universe. And my word of the year is to surrender. And when you surrender, you have to surrender control of the timeline. And so I am surrendering. And the moment I did that, I really felt so much at peace about it. The second I did that, the pressure went away. But that's my story, right? You have to figure out for yourself what story you're telling you, what story you're telling yourself, what pressures are you putting on yourself and why. Now, again, that maybe you need a therapist, maybe you need a coach, maybe you need to get on my mailing list, or maybe you need to join my soon to be created Patreon and we can all do it together. But regardless of how you do it, the most important thing for all of us is to remember that as business owners, for us to feel happy and successful in our business and feel comfortable charging what it is that we want to charge, we have to know what our measuring stick is, what's important to us, and it's not going to be found in ads and marketing tools. That's not where you're going to find your money. The money is going to be found in figuring this shit out, because once you do that, once you've done all the pain in the ass mindset work, the payoff is worth it, because then you feel confident. That position that you put yourself in makes you feel so confident that the number that you say out of your mouth no longer matters to you. You will say 10,000 as easily as you'll say 2,000, because you'll realize it doesn't matter what the dollar amount is. It's the way you're delivering it and the confidence behind what you are doing. Woo! This concludes our Charge What You're Worth series. Oh my goodness, it was quite a long series and we talked about a great many things. So we are going to continue this conversation in the Patreon as soon as it gets launched this weekend. And we are also going to continue to have episodes of Stop Shitting All Over Yourself live in the same bat time, same bat channel, because this is one of the things that was super important to me. So as I scale down, my entire business is going to be rooted in the Stop Shitting All Over Yourself podcast. This is what I'm going to be doing from now on. So I'm very thrilled to really see how much further I can take this. I'm looking forward to bringing you all along on the journey, and I will see you guys next week for Stop Shitting All Over Yourself. And bam. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Let's see what I missed. That was heavy, guys. Super heavy. Okay. Okay. Hi, Amy. How are you doing with PT? All right. Sheila, you know what's great? So I'm doing this presentation at the South Shore Women's Business Network at the virtual breakfast tomorrow morning. And I have a presentation that came out of these podcasts. And actually, Sheila, the reason why I did this podcast was because as I started to put this presentation together, I wanted something that I could send people to that would give them something to run with afterwards. Because I was like, you know what? Like, this is a bigger, like, we can start with, these are the things that you need to do. But the problem that we're all going to run into is that mindset support as we get ready to do the thing that we're doing, right? That's really the problem. And so I was like, you know what? How can I sort of do this? So I was like, oh my God, I got to start doing this podcast now. I literally, the last podcast is today. I'm doing the presentation tomorrow. Did I time this or what? I actually thought I didn't think I'd need this one. I actually thought I'd be done last week. Okay. Yes, don't choose to be stagnant. Absolutely. So Sheila says, yesterday I thought about how to check in, follow up on Mondays rather than on Fridays. Okay, I love that, right? So Sheila, I'm just going to extrapolate a little bit. I'm just going to make some shit up as if, like, I'm going to pretend I know what it is that you want exactly and just sort of workshop this a little bit. So what I would think, so if let's say Sheila's a client of mine and she comes to me, and I'm assuming that Sheila would say something like, I don't like the way that my week is set up right now. It's like, I feel like I'm always rushed. I'm always doing things. And let's say she had a week where her Friday was off. Now she had a 3-day weekend and she's like, I really liked how that felt. So I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to do my follow-ups on Mondays right now. And that's how it happened for me. I realized that I liked the 3-day weekend. So I started to push things up. Now I actually have my week scheduled so that like Tuesday, Wednesday are like super packed with things. And then like I have like almost like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Like I try to do it that. I'm trying to play with my week to make it as, relaxed as possible. But I wouldn't have had the freedom to do that the way that I was viewing my business before. My entire perspective on my business, I decided that this is all the framework, right? So the first thing that you got to let go, right? So like Sheila's framework might have been, well, this is the schedule at which I do things. And for a lot of us, when we decide this is the schedule at which I do things, we somehow decide that's set in stone, right? So 6 months down the line, if I was to be like, hey, Sheila, why don't you move it to Monday? Move your follow-ups to Monday. She'd be like, well, I can't. Well, why not? Well, because this is how I do it, right? Now, she did not say any of these things, but I've definitely said that. I have 100% done this, where I'm just like, well, I can't. Well, why? And Alex has asked me that, and he asked me, and I'm like, what? Why are you? How dare you ask me that question? And I'm like, oh my God, you know what? There really is no reason why not. It's just a story that I told myself. And it's really important to start to figure out what things are really immutable, because there are things that you cannot change, right? Like the dollar amount, like once you've gotten to the, like, let's say, like for example, I cannot change the fact that some days I'm going to wake up with a fibro flare, like today. I can't. It is what it is. So I have to work around that framework. But there's other things that I can change, right? I can definitely change whether I do something on Friday or not. Done. Like I moved my acupuncture, Sheila. As I was doing this, I realized I didn't want to be leaving my house on Fridays. So I was like, oh, okay, you know what I'm going to do then? I was like, I was always on Fridays. And so I moved it to Thursdays. Something so small, but my quality of life has improved so much. Do not underestimate the value or the importance, the huge impact tiny little changes like that will make on your life, guys. Optimizing your week makes a huge difference. Huge difference. Okay. Alrighty. Alrighty. So Elisa wanted me to talk about no one else's decisions are a judgment on you or your choices. That is so important. Okay. For me, I think I still hear this, and then sometimes I can hear it in other people when I say something to them. And so I always have to like be sure that I'm like acknowledging that I was not judging your choice. Right. And it started a lot for me, like, is that where anytime someone says I'm leaving, and this happened more in direct sales, where they'd be like, I'm leaving direct sales. It's like, oh, well, she failed. Oh, she couldn't hack it. And that was the story that was told. And the reason why that was the story that was told is because the belief system was that you only leave if you fail or if you can't succeed at it, right? And it's to bolster the feeling of community with the people that are left. It's a very specific process of what's the word I'm looking for? Process of feelings and thoughts, but it starts way further back than we think, right? So like all of the what we're seeing is the consequences of the idea that succeed or fail is the only option, and that people leave direct sales because they failed. I never even thought of that as an idea until I joined direct sales. Okay, so that I don't know how prevalent it is in other places, but I do know that living my whole life to 437, that I had not prevailed that thought, but now that I learned it, it became really, really ingrained in me to like a very significant amount. And this is a change I'd like to see happen in general. I'd like to see that change happen in business, where it's recognized that anyone can make a choice without it being a judgment on your decision-making process or on the choice that you're making. It's simply that it's not the right choice for me. And my choice is not the right choice for you. I'm not a more or less evolved human being because I'm choosing to do this. But I think a lot of times people think that like, if everything in life is a step forward, right? Progression, and someone makes a different choice, then that naturally means I've progressed. And you, who stays there, has not, right? But like, when I say it like that, you're like, well, obviously that's not what it is. But we don't often look at it that intently and that specifically. And because we don't look at it that intently and that specifically, we don't break down that that's a thing that actually happens within us. And the reason why it happens within us is because we don't want to be rejected, right? We have low self-esteem issues, whatever it is. So when you really look at that moment, in that moment, it's a lot easier to just break down and be like, oh, of course she's not, it's fine. So that's something, if we all start to incorporate that just into our perspectives, then by default, we will stop judging other people for making their choices, because we'll realize it's not a judgment on us. So once we don't feel judged by their choices, well, now we can just be happy for their choices. That's great. I'm so glad you bought that $1 million house. That's amazing. You're not judging me for buying my tiny little house. That's okay. Right? And I'm not judging you for buying your $1 million house. It doesn't matter. Right? That's your life. This is my life. We really need to just stay out of each other's lives and just provide joy and support. Okay. All right. Was yesterday Monday? Oh no, yesterday was Tuesday. I was like, wait a minute, what? Okay. Yes, everybody come join us at the South Shore Women's Business Network. I got to tell you, it is literally one of the best. I told Lisa this. It is one of the best run networking groups I have ever been a part of. Okay. Alrighty. I think that wraps up all of our conversation for today, my friends. Alrighty. Let's see. Oh, look at that. Hold on, I have some comments. I just want to make sure that, oh, this is not, that's not it. Where it is. Okay. Alrighty. Work creates, absolutely. Okay, coming in here, all my questions. You sound like my husband. Sometimes it is etched in stone. You know, this is the problem. Is that, you know what made me think of this was, I watched, oh, freaking A. House on Haunted Hill. No, wait. I think it's House on Haunted. Yeah, whichever one was the Flanagan one on Netflix. And somebody says, you know, that's a made up word. And the little girl goes, all words are made up. And I was like, wait a minute. And then something happened a few months later where somebody said that's a rule. And I said, all rules are made up. And I was like, whoa. Oh, no, I said it. Oh, you know what? I said it in like an office hours or something. And we all stopped for a minute. We're just like, whoa. Because that's something really powerful, okay? Someone had to make something up. All rules are made up. Words are made up. The things that we decide are made up. All of these things are made up. It's all just stuff that we say, this is the way it is. If you decide it's another way, then you will make that other way happen. I had a coach once who said, if you go into a training saying, I already know all this, then guess what? You're not going to learn shit. If you go into a training saying, what can I learn from this? Or how can I make this work for me? Then you'll always come away with something. And what was really great is I actually did know all of the content of the particular training that she taught. But what I learned from her was those 2 great sentences. And 2, I learned how to make people buy things, right? Because she made me buy it with her amazing sales pitch, even though I already knew everything in there, right? So did I know everything? I didn't. There was a lot that clearly I didn't know, but it was at a different level. So always be asking yourself and approach things from a space of curiosity. You'll be less judgy on yourself. Alrighty. Okay, guys, I am going to wrap this up today. This was a little bit longer than the usual 1 hour. I think and I'm moving over into a Patreon space, so we're actually going to be going into a space where I'm not even going to care how long I'm live. I'm very, very excited to see what this next step in my journey is going, where it's going to take me. The one thing that I want to make sure that everybody knows is that Stop Shitting All Over Yourself is continuing and will continue. And I'm actually going to add another Stop Shitting All Over Yourself component where I interview people in my life about their stories, because I really, really, really want to share other people's stories as much as I want to continue to share my own. And then 2 is I am going to continue to do my group coaching inside the squad. So that is business coaching that is valued at $500. Oh my God, it's actually $2,000 a month value because you get it like once a week. But basically, it's come and ask your business questions. You have a business question? Come ask it. It's $39, and you get access to the Roadmap to Success Guidebook, which contains stage 5, which has all of that passive money-making stuff that I talked about earlier on in the podcast. So those are the things that I wanted to make sure that you know about. Please do continue to follow me on Facebook, follow me on YouTube, and do not forget to join me this Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern. I'm trying, what time is it at? 1 p.m. Eastern on Fireside. Roxanne Wilson and I are doing fireside chats every Saturday, which we call our water cooler conversation for the work from home crowd. So I will see you guys next